Okay, so Machbezim with Aleph, 5 lines from the top. Taner Reb Zakkai. Taner Reb Zakkai K'mei Reb Yochanan. Reb Zakkai said he learned in front of Reb Yochanan the following halacha. Zivach v'kiter v'nisach v'eshtachva v'helam echad. He did 4 avodas for avodah zara, 4 ones that even if it's shloi kadarki you're chayev. He did a shishachted, he burned something, he poured some wine or something, or he bowed. Even if it wasn't that avodah zara's thing, but he did it in one helam, he did it in one not realizing that it's aser. Ein chayev alachas, he's only chayev 1 chatas. He did it by mistake. He didn't realize it was aser. Or he didn't realize, we'll talk about what this case is. Huh? He realized it was avodah zara? Pashtus, he had to know it was avodah zara. We're going to see later on that if he didn't, it's not. And we actually saw it before. Right, he had to know it was avodah zara, but he didn't know it was aser. But he did it, he did these 4 different malachas. 4 different avodas. What was his purpose? What was he trying to be sticky about? Avodah zara, you have to throw things out. The Gemara is going to analyze this a little later, exactly what kind of scenario it is. But for the purposes of right now, let's just say that he didn't think it was. He knew that avodah zara was aser. We didn't think this was aser. We're going to say that, let's say in Hilchas Shabbos, if a person did 2 malachas, let's say chayrish and kaitzer, in one helam, right? The Gemara in Shabbos, and we're going to bring it down very soon, talks about, and we're going to see this very, very soon, I'm just trying to illustrate the concept, whether or not, what scenario is to be chayiv 1 chatas, one scenario is to be chayiv 2 chatas for doing those 2 averos. Over here, Reb Zakkai is just saying, if you did all 4 of these in one shaygig, you're going to be only chayiv 1 chatas. Okay? Amar lei, so Rabbi Yochanan was listening to this. He said, Reb Zakkai said this to Rabbi Yochanan, Tuk tani lebra, go say outside that this is not true. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan is contradicting, saying to Reb Zakkai, no, it's not correct what you're saying. You're going to be chayav 4 different chatayis. Amar Rab Abba, Rab Abba said, Hadar Amar Reb Zakkai, machlekes Reb Yossi Reb Nassim. This that Reb Zakkai said that you'd chayav 4, he's not saying it's wrong like Rabbi Yochanan. He's saying that it's totally in machlekes Tanan. That there's a Tana who holds like Reb Zakkai and there's a Tana who doesn't hold like Reb Zakkai. So he's basically saying that Reb Zakkai and Reb Yochanan are taking 2 different sides of the same of a machlekes Tanan. What's a machlekes Tanan? And here's where we go. Start talking about Hilchas Shabbos. The Tanya will learn in a brayso. Havara lelav yatzis. Divrei Rabbi Yossi. The story is like this. The Torah says that the Shabbos you're not allowed to do malacha. Torah does not say what malachas are aser. We have Chazal. We learned this from Masechta Shabbos a couple years ago. We have 39 malachas, and the Chazal learned it out from the malachas HaMishkan, and the 39 things that they need to do for the Mishkan. Those are the avos malachas that we can't do now on Shabbos, except for one. There's one malacha that the Torah says, and that's havara. Don't burn a fire in your dwelling places, in your settlements, via Shabbos. So why? Not let a light a fire. Not a fire. So why does the Torah say only havara and not the other 38? Right? Why only havara? So this is machlekes Tanan. It comes up a lot of times, and I think Rashi on the Chumash brings it down. It's a famous machlekes. The Tanya learned in the brayso, havara lelav yatsa divrei Rabbi Yossi. Havara is the Torah took havara out of the context of the other 39 avos malachas to say the other 39 malachas. If a person does the meshegi is chayav chatas, b'meizid is chayav skila, b'meizid without hasra is chayav kares. But except for havara, for whatever reason, the Rebbeinu Shem said it's not a serious chamer of an avera. It will only be a lav. That's why the pasuk said it separately to say this is not like the other ones. This is like svarish b'chomash v'zechem. It's a lav, but it's not like the other ones that are chayiv misa.
That's true.
That we don't pass it like this. No, I don't believe we pass it like this. What? Just to be clear, even according to Rabbi Yossi that says Havar lelav yatzis, it's just as usher to do on Shabbos, and it's still an av malacha.
Why does it say here that it's not really counted?
He's not saying it's not counted. He's saying it's not chayiv misa. Right? But it's definitely counted. That's what Rabbi Yossi says. Rab Nassan Aimer lechalek yatza. Rab Nassan says no. Havara came lechalek to tell you that just like havara is one of the malachas they did in the Mishkan, and it's an av malacha, and you're chayiv on it, so too any other av malacha that you do, you're chayav on it. In other words, it's coming to say that the av malachas are different from each other. We have a klal. We say it in Rabbi Shmuel Leimer, kol dar rashai b'chlal, something that was included in a general category. V'yatzim in klal, and the Torah took it out of the category, took one piece of it out of the category. L'lamed lo l'lamed al atzma yatsa. It didn't come to teach on itself, on just this piece of Havara, Elamed al Kal Kula Yatsa. It came to teach about the entire klal. It came to say that the entire klal is separate one from the other. And just like Havara will be Chayav Misa, so too Chayrish is Chayav Misa, and so too Kaitzer is Chayav Misa, and all the other 39 malachas. And therefore, if a person did 3 malachas b'mezid, he's only going to get killed once. You can't kill him 3 times. But if a person did three according to Rav Nassan, if a person did 3 avos malachas in one shaygeg, right, he'll be chayav 3 chatais. Because that's l'chalak yatsa. It came to divide them from each other. They're separate averos, right? Just like if somebody, for example, ate chelev, which is one lav, and ate dam, which is a different lav, right? He's going to bring 2 different chatais because the 2 have nothing. 2 different averos. They have nothing to do with each other. So a person was over on chelev, he has to bring 1 chatas. The fact that he had one amnesia, forgot about the isurim, doesn't mean that he brings only one chatas. He brings 2 because 2 different averos.
When we say he brings a stronger one, if he does do the same thing, like a stronger one that's very strong, and one that's not so strong.
You're talking about an av versus a telda?
Yeah.
So the
only being the
if you right, what we were talking about until now is only aves. The Gemara in Shabbos says that if a person does an av and its malacha,
only chayav for that.
And it's telda, I mean, you only in one helam, you only chayav 1. Okay.
Look, you have nothing left? No. Look on the music on top. Maybe in the kitchen downstairs.
So yeah, the Gemara says, the Gemara says like this: Laman de Amar Havara Lalav Yatsa. According to the Man de Amar, that the Torah said Havara is coming to tell you a lav. In other words, according to Rabbi Yossi, the first Tana, that says that Havara is not saying that all the Averis are separate. Havara is saying that Havara is separate. It's a lav versus everything else is going to be Chayav Misa. So according to them, on the Amar, Havara l'lav yatsa, Hishtachava nami l'lav yatsa. Hishtachava also came for lav. In other words, the Torah says, I think the pasuk was, I think that's the pasuk we're talking about over here. Now, it doesn't say leisizbach lahem. It doesn't say leisiktar lahem. It doesn't say senaseach lahem. Right? It doesn't say the other one. So why did it say shtachva separately? Well, you're going to say the same thing that we said before. The Torah is saying that this is a lav, and shtachva is a lav. In other words, even though it's a Yisra Zara, a person who does it is not going to bring a chatas. He's not going to get karas because it's a lav. It's still, Rashi says, it's a weird havamina. It's a weird havamina, this havamina, because he'll still get misa if he had edim and asra, because that is a mefurish pasuk that he's going to get misa be'edim and asra. So he'll still get misa, but it's a lav in the sense that he won't bring a chatas for it if he does it b'shaygig, and if he does it b'mezid without edim and asra, he won't get karas. So we're going to say the same logic applies that when you have a whole bunch of isurim and the pasuk says one out, it's coming to say the lav yatsa. It's less chamer than the other ones that it didn't say.
Less chamer, the one that
the Torah says out. It's taking it out of the context to say it's only a lav. But Lamandi Amar Havara L'chalak Yatsa, according to the Mandamar that says that by Shabbos, the reason why it says Leisavaroish is to tell you that every of is separate from the other, and a person who does a bunch of them in one helam and one forgetting that it's Shabbos will be chayav a bunch of chatais. So Hishtachva Nami L'chalak Yatsa. Hishtachva also is coming to be mechalak to say that if a person does Hishtachva and Zivach and Kiter and Nisach in one helam, he'll be chayav 4 chatais. So in other words, Rav Abba is saying that the machlokes of Rab Zakkai and Rab Yochanan is the machlokes of Rab Yosi and Rab Nassan. And the same thing, just like they had the machlokes by Hilchas Shabbos, you'd have the same machlokes by Hilchas Avodah Zarah. So now, it's Rabbi Yochanan disagreed with Rab Zakkai, but Rab Zakkai has somebody to hang his hat on. He has an opinion he has a Tana that's going like him, right? Okay. Maskula Rav Yosef is going to ask a kasha. Rav Yosef is going to say, you're telling me, Rav Abba, that there's a machlokes by Shabbos, and you could say that this machlokes by Avodah Zarah parallels that? No. I'm going to say you could have the machlokes by Shabbos, and Avodah Zarah, everyone would agree that you're still going to have all the avodas will be the same.
By Shabbos.
By Avodah Zarah. I'm sorry, the other way around. Sorry. Rabbi Yosef is going to say, even though you have a machlokes by Shabbos, by Avodah Zarah, everyone will agree that the pasuk is coming to tell you that you should separate each of the avodas. And if somebody does zivach, v'kitar, v'nisach, v'eshtachve in one helam, he has to bring 4 chatais. In other words, he's going to say that this is why Rabbi Yochanan said, Puk Tani Lebra. He said to Rabbi Zakkai, go tell everyone that's not the halacha what you said, because everyone by Hilchas Shabbos holds that by Avodah Zarah you would have to bring 4 separate ones, 4 separate chatas. He's going to bring a raya, a cheshvan, to show you that this is the case. So this is what Maskula Rav Yosef is. Maskula Rav Yosef has the kasha, Dilma like this, maybe like this. Adkan lekam Rabbi Yosef hasam havar lelav yatsa. The reason why Rav Yossi says over there, Havara is coming to tell you that it's a separate lav or by Havara, but not to say that the malachas are separate from each other. That Havara is a lav and it's not Misa. You know why? Because the nafkale chiluk malachas me'achas mehena. He learns out the chiluk malachas from me'achas mehena. Let me explain what's going on over here. There's a pasuk by Hilchas Shabbos that says like this: Darel b'nei Yisrael leimor. It's not by Hilchas Shabbos. The pasuk is by Chatois, Hilchas Chatas, in the beginning of Sefer Vayikra. Darel b'nei Yisrael leimor. Tell Klal Yisrael saying, Nefesh kisechta b'shkaga. When a person does an aver b'shagi by mistake, from all the mitzvahs Hashem that he shouldn't do it. V'asan he does me'achas from one, me'hena from these. Now the Gemara is going to say, we're going to read it in a second. I'm going to say it out first. That this is extra. It shouldn't have said. It should have said. It could have said v'asa me'hena. Could have said v'asa achas me'hena. It could have said. There's a whole bunch of different ways it could have said it. You didn't have to say me'achas me'hena. And the Gemara therefore is going to learn out 4 drashas from these 2 words. Me'achas and me'hena, between the two and the combination of achas and hena together next to each other, we're going to learn at four drashas. And what Rav Yosef is saying is the reason why Rav Yosef says that you don't need Havara to tell you that it's Lachalek, you don't need Havara to tell you that each Avera is separate from each other, is because you have Me'achas Me'hena to tell you that each Av Malacha is separate from each other. But by Avodah Zarah, we don't have this kind of thing. And therefore, by Avodah Zarah, you have to say that even Rabbi Yossi would agree that it's not Lulav Yatza, it's L'chalak Yatza, and everyone will be masking that by Avodah Zarah, you have to bring 4 different chatayas. Okay? Now, I just summarized it because the back and forth is a little confusing. Let's see it inside now. Maskula Rav Yosef, last in line. Maskula Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef asked the kasha. Dilma ad kan lekam Rav Yosef hasam avar lelav yatsa. You know why Rav Yosef said by Hilchas Shabbos that Havara is for a lav and it's not coming to tell you that each Av Malacha brings a separate chatas. The nafkale chiluk malachas me'achas me'hena. He learns out, or this gerson on the side, me'achas me'hena. He learns out the fact that each malacha gets a separate chatas from the pasuk me'achas me'hena. What's the pasuk me'achas me'hena? The Tanya learned in a brayso. So Rabbi Yossi says, va'asa me'achas me'hena. The pasuk says you do from one from these. And this teaches us sometimes you do a bunch of averos and you chayav only one chatas. And sometimes you do a bunch of averos and you chayav on each one. So Amar Rabbi Yonasan says, what's Rabbi Yossi talking about? Rabbi Yonasan just explaining what Rabbi Yossi is talking about. What? Amar Rabbi Yonasan, my time with Rabbi Yossi. What's the reason of Rabbi Yossi? The Ksiv, the pasuk says, "Va'asa me'achas me'heina." It says you do me'achas me'heina. Now we're darshaning achas me'achas. It says achas, and there's an extra mem because it says me'achas. Heina, meheina. It says heina, and it didn't have to say the extra mem, so it says meheina. There's two things, and then it compares and puts achas and heina together. So now we also learn from the fact that they're together. Achas shi heina. Sometimes you have one that's a bunch. Veheina shi achas, and sometimes you have a bunch that's one. And now the Gemara is going to explain. Okay, the Gemara said the top level stuff. Now it's going to explain the Rashi. Achas. Shimon. When it says that you're chayav one chatas, is for doing a full avera, like a person on Shabbos writes the name Shimon in on a piece of paper. He's going to be chayav for doing melachas kaisev, right? Me'achas, but he's going to be chayav. The pasuk is saying he's chayav chatas even if he does from the whole melacha. For example, Shemi Shimon. He's in the middle of writing and he stops writing after the first two letters. So he only writes Shem. He wrote Shimon is Shin Mem Ayin Vav Nun. He wrote Shin Mem. He's going to be chayav chatas, even though he did from not the whole thing he intended to do, but he did part of it. But that already is its own malacha. He's going to be chayav chatas.
He's making a full mem out of it.
Since it's its full unit, right? If you do Naphtali and you write Nun Fe, you're not going to be chayav because it doesn't have any meaning. But Shimon, Shin Mem is the name. Shem ben Yaakov. Shem ben Chaf, but Shem ben Noach. I'm sorry, Shem ben Noach. Right? So that's what me'achas means. That even if you do from the whole avera, less than the whole avera that you intended, but it's a unit by itself. Heina. When it says Heina, these it's talking about avis, the avis malachas. Me'heina. When it says me'heina, it means a little subservient from the these. That means teldas. The teldas of malacha that a person is also going to be chayav on it. Now, achashi heina. What's the case of one which we have to bring a lot of averos, a lot of chatas for? Is a case of zadan Shabbos shigas malachas. A person knew it was Shabbos. He knows today is Shabbos, and he knows you're not allowed to do malacha on Shabbos. But he didn't know that these malachas are asur. He knew you're not allowed to do Zarei Chayrish and Chaitzar. He didn't know that you're not allowed to do Chaitzah and Hatwana and Bishul. He didn't know those, right? So he's going to be chayiv. He's going to be chayiv only one carbon. Only one carbon. He'll be chayiv three karbanas. He'll be chayiv three karbanas because he did three averos, because he knew Shabbos was asur, he knew it was Shabbos, and he did three different ma'aseh isur on Shabbos, right? But the mistake was what? The mistake was doing hatmana. The mistake was doing bishul. The mistake was doing haitzah. Those are three different malachas. So he's chayiv three chatais for those. That's what it says. Achashihena. There's one mistake because he didn't know. It's one mistake. It's one hilchas Shabbos, one avera of Shabbos, but three chatais because it's heina because you sometimes split one Isra Shabbos into three different things.
Different averos, right?
Three different averos under the banner, the category of Shabbos. Right.
So what's the chedesh in Nachamol?
So even though he made three things he did three separate things, but even though it was only one, and conceptually you could say, look, he messed up in Hilchos Shabbos.
Right.
So he brings one chatas. It was one helam. It was one man, right? In 5 minutes, without even realizing or thinking, he didn't pull out a Mishnah or anything. He just went and he did hatmana and he did bishul and he did a haitzah, right? Right? So you would think maybe he brings only one chatas, where it says no. He brings achashihena. He brings multiple chatas for each malacha that he did. But sometimes heina shiachas. It's Hina that is achas, that you do you make a bunch of mistakes, so to speak, but you only bring one carbon. That'll be Shiga Shabbos of Zadan Malachas. If he makes a mistake on Shabbos, but he does the Malachas on purpose. In other words, he knows you're not allowed to do Chayrish. He knows you're not allowed to do Zerei. He knows you're not allowed to do Chayrish. He knows Shabbos really well. He just didn't realize today was Shabbos. So that's one.
He did it on purpose, these things?
He did it on purpose.
I know you know that.
He thought it was Tuesday.
So what's the question? Now, why is he chayiv?
He's chayiv. But what was the shogeg? The shogeg wasn't doing the zri or doing the ktsira. The shogeg was not knowing that today is Shabbos. That's one averis. So even though he did a bunch of averis, he only brings one chayyus. Okay. So okay, this is what Rabbi Yonasan says to explain Rabbi Yossi. Now we're going back to Rabbi Yosef talking. Okay. So he says, therefore, Rabbi Yossi over there, he learned now from Me'achas Mehena that it's possible to do three
things, Mechayiv only for one.
But it's also chayiv to do three things, and Mechayiv for all three of them.
This case of Shogeg, you always said the case of Mason, right?
We're talking about Shogeg. So far, we're talking only about Shogeg. Yeah, but let me just. When the Gemara says Mazid, that might be what you're thinking about. When Gemara says Zadan Shabbos, it doesn't mean that you're doing a Mazid Shabbos. It means that it's a situation where you know that there's the Isser of Gluck on Shabbos. You just didn't know Shabbos, right? It's not the traditional way we use Mazid. So now, Rabbi Yossi, you know why he says that when it says Havara, it's coming to tell you that Havara is only a lav, unlike the other 38 malachas? Because he learns from Me'achas Mehena that you see that you could bring multiple chatais for multiple malachas, even in one helam. So he already knows this concept of lachalek from Me'achas Mehena. Therefore, he doesn't need the pasuk of Havara to tell you lachalek. That's why over there he holds that Havara is l'lav yatzis. But over here by Avodah Zarah, you don't have this Me'achas Mehena.
You know it's Shabbos, like it's never Avodah Zarah type of thing.
Well, it's more than that. The pasuk is not talking. The pasuk Me'achas Mehena is not talking about Avodah Zarah. So therefore, you don't have any way to be mechalik besides the fact that it says Ishtachava is separate. So if it says Ishtachava is separate, the Torah is telling you, well, just like Ishtachava is separate, Zivach is separate, and Keter is separate, and Nisach is separate, and if a guy does all four in one helam, he'll be chayav for chatois, not like Reb Zakkai. And that's why Rabbi Yochanan said to Reb Zakkai, no, you're wrong. That's because even Rabbi Yossi by Shabbos would disagree with Reb Zakkai over here by Avodah Zarah. Let's see that inside. But over here by Avodah Zarah, we have no other source to tell you that the malachas are separate from each other. Everyone agrees that when it says ishtachava, it's coming to tell you that the malachas are separate from each other, and the person who does four different Avodah Zarah malachas will have to bring 4 different chatayis. It doesn't mishayim. Fact the Gemara like this. I just said to you something that wasn't really strictly speaking it's true. I told you that it doesn't say Me'achas Mehena by Avodah Zarah. It's only by Shabbos. But really, where's Me'achas Mehena? We said this is in the parsha of Karban Chatas. And if a person does Avodah Zarah b'Shaygeg, he should also be in that parsha. So when it says Me'achas Mehena, can't it be talking about Avodah Zarah also? So now, if it's talking about Avodah Zarah, then you have a different source to be mechalak by Avodah Zarah, to tell you that the Averis are separate, Zivach, V'Kiter, V'Nisach is separate, and if that's the case, when it says Ishtachava, so it says Ishtachava, now I could use that Ishtachava to tell you L'lav Yatzis. And that a person who does Ishtachava for Avodah Zarah is B'Shaygeg, even B'Mezid, is not chayiv, B'Shaygeg is not chayiv Chatas, because it's L'lav Yatzis. So the Gemara's question is, I'll say it inside now, but the Gemara's question basically is that you do have a different source to tell you that you should separate the Averis, the Avodes of Avodah Zarah, and that you should be chayev a different chatas for each one. And if that's the case, I could go back to using Hishtachava for a lav and tell you that the Hishtachava is a lav and not chayev chatas. So Gemara says, let's think about this. Chiluk malachas avodas kachavim nami pitklei me'achas mehina. If the chiluk malachas avodas kachavim also let's learn from me'achas mehina. And now the Gemara is going to try to figure out how this can fit in the pasuk. And it's very important for it to fit in the pasuk. Because if it doesn't fit in the pasuk, and remember, we said 4 different permutations in the pasuk. Achas me'achas, heina me'heina, achas she heina, heina she achas. We said a case for each one of those me'ach l'Shabbos. If we can't say a case for each one of those me'ach l'Avodah Zarah, then we have to say that pasuk is not going on Avodah Zarah. And if that pasuk is not going on Avodah Zarah, you go back to what we say that we have no source to l'chalak Avodah Zarahs, and therefore you have to say Hishtachava is l'chalak yatzis. But Hishtachava comes to tell you that all the avodas are separate, and the person who does 4 avodas in one halam has to bring 4 chatayis, not like Rav Zakkai. That's what the Gemara is going to declare now to see, can we fit Avodah Zarah into this pasuk and this drasha me'achas me'ena. So the Gemara is going to say like this. How are you going to do it? Hebele me'achas me'ena. How are you going to learn? Achas is vicha. What's a single avodah, a single isser by Avodah Zarah? Person who shechts for Avodah Zarah. What's me'achas? Just like you said before, achas me'achas was Shimon by Shabbos. And me'achas was shemesh Shimon. You do a subcategory of that, but you're still going to be chayav for that subcategory. So me'achas is siman echad. We'll say me'achas is a person who doesn't do a full shechita of cutting the whole neck, both simanim. He does one siman, and that's still going to be enough to be avodah for avodah zarah to be chayav misa. That's me'achas. Heina. We'll say Heina is Avos, which are the 4 Avos of Avodah Zarah: Zivuach, Kitur, Nisach, V'Shtachva, shechting, burning, pouring, and bowing. What's Meheina? Meheina is Toldos. The Toldos, like we already saw a few different times, that an Avodah Zarah that has a weird Avodah, but that's its Avodah Zarah, that's its derech. You're going to be chayiv for. And what is that? Shavar Makul Fanah. A case, the Gemara is going to bring this somewhere later on, where you worship Avodah Zarah by breaking a stick in front of it. I'm not sure what the big appeal is, but apparently there was such an Avodah Zarah. So that's the mehena, that's the toldos. What's achashihena? Achashihena is zadan avodas kachavim v'shigas avodas. He knows that avodah zarah is wrong, but he didn't know that these avodas were usher. He didn't know that and he did a few avodas. He's going to have to bring 3 chatayis, right? Because he did 3 different avodah zarahs.
You do avodah zarah stuff that doesn't apply to that avodah zarah is to chayav.
A person who does avodah zarah stuff of zivech v'kita v'nisach v'shtachva that doesn't apply to that avodah zarah is always going to be chayav. Those 4 are classic.
Anything out of the ordinary, not chayav.
Out of the ordinary, unless for that avodah zarah it is ordinary.
What is it for again?
Zivech, shechting, bowing, pouring, like pouring wine in front of it. Pouring wine in front of it, like and hishtachva, bowing. So now, so achashi heina is zadan avodas kachavim v'shigas avodas. What's heina shiachas? So a case where you do a bunch of averes but only chayav 1 chatas. Shigas avodas kachavim v'zadan avodas. You didn't realize this was an avodah zarah, so you were shaking on the.
Avodah zarah, you don't know what it says.
What?
You don't know it's an avodah zarah altogether.
We're going to talk about exactly what that means in a second. But remember we said before, a person thought it was Tuesday, and really it was Shabbos. So same thing. For whatever reason, the person didn't think this was Avodah Zarah, but he knew that these things are Asar.
Why is doing this?
For whatever reason. But that's the Gemara's going to ask him this in a second. That's why I'm not giving you a good answer. That would be the case where he has to bring only 1 chatas for Avodah Zarah. So if you say that this is the situation, this is the way you learn it, then we could say from chat we have a chiluk malachas by Avodah Zarah from the same me'achas me'ena, and say that you don't need the pasuk of Havara to tell you lechalak, and tell you the pasuk Havara could be going saying a little lav, and therefore Havara would only be a lav. So the Gemara says, "Hi shigas avetz kachav mechidami." The Gemara is asking your question. What's this case that we're saying that it was a shagig and avetz kachav? Now you might recognize these next 2 lines. We had it a daf or 2 ago. We met over Friday or Shabbat. I think it was Friday's daf. What's the case? What's his mistake? What's his shagig over here? If he thought that he's in shul and he bowed towards the shul, right?
Instead, what about
It was a church. Okay? His heart was in the right place. You can't say that, of course, you're obviously not allowed to bow to a church, but you can't say that he was doing Avodah Zarah because he thought he was bound to the Rebbeinu Shalom.
Who's making Moshe? He has to have Edom and Nisra? When you say he's Chayav,
No, we're talking about a case of Chatas now. So he comes into Beis Din crying, I bowed to a church, I didn't realize, I thought it was a
So
show.
all these cases you said there are 4 different things, all when he came to Beis Din and said, I did this and that.
Yeah, he asked his local Orthodox rabbi. No, there's no question on the facts here. Right?
All you need is straw,
Right. We're talking about bringing a karma chatas. But, so now, what's the case of Shiggas Haved Zakhavim? If he thought it was a shul and it turned out to be a church, his heart was in the right place. He's not going to be chayiv. Ella, right? Remember, this pasuk is talking about a case where he'll be chayiv chatas, but in this case he's not chayiv chatas because he didn't actually worship Avodah Zarah. He thought he was worshiping the Rebbeinu Shalom. Ella the Chazan Darta, he saw a statue of the king, and he bowed to it. So now, in fact, if when he bowed to it, it's because he felt he was being makabel this Avodah Zarah, this king has the Avodah Zarah. Then Mazid who? He's a Mazid. If he's a Mazid, you don't bring Karban Chatas. The Chatas is only if the person has a mistake. And if he didn't, he was just doing it because it's the thing you do when you pass by the king's statue.
What's the deity? D-E-I-T-Y.
Deity, a god, something you worship. And if he wasn't makabel on himself, like Klumu, it's nothing. It's just like he, again, it's totally in his heart, in what he meant, what he thought. So maybe he shouldn't have bowed. A good Jew doesn't bow to a statue, but he wasn't over Avodah Zarah because he still believes in the Rebbeinu Shalom, and he didn't think that statue of the king is not Avodah Zarah. Ella, so must be. So what's the case of Shegeg? The only thing I can tell you is Me'avo Me'ira. Cases like this. He has his wife is a big fan of this Avodah Zarah and says, honey, please just do me a favor and bow to it. Shalom bayis. Or the king says, you don't bow to this, I'm going to chop your head off. That's Me'avo Me'ira. Right?
What's Ava? His wife?
Yeah. It could be any case. It's a good friend or whatever. And Me'ira is that somebody's going to be...
So you can't do it.
Can't do it, right? But the question is what happens if you do it?
So if you don't have a money, you bow down like you think about sports.
Right. So now what the Gemara is saying right now is that this Me'ava Me'ira is like this. The guy thought that he is allowed to bow to Avodah Zarah Me'ava Me'ira. He knows you're not allowed to do Avodah Zarah, and he knows this is not Avodah Zarah. So it's not like the church. He's just doing it because to keep his wife happy, right? So what doesn't the person do to keep his wife happy? Wow. But you shouldn't do Avodah Zarah, right?
So a person says, I'm buying Avodah Zarah, doesn't have anything in mind. King's bowed down right now, the Haman, right?
Yeah.
You bow down and you think of chocolate cake.
That's right.
You can That's a regular bowing down.
So this is exactly the question that the Gemara is saying. Where right now the Havamina wants to say, if it's a Me'avo Me'ira, that's the shaking. You're not allowed to do it, right? But if you did it because you thought that Me'avo Me'ira is okay, because you thought it's okay to do, and you find out, you come to your rabbi and say, I was so smart, I didn't Me'avo Me'ira, I'm not chayiv. He says, what are you talking about? Yankov, you're chayiv achatas now, right? So that's what the Gemara is going to say. That's the case of Shiggas Haved Zakhavim Uzadan Amayis. Right? That's the case where you're going to be chayiv. A person did a bunch, he bowed, he burned something, he poured something. He's going to be chayiv 3 chatas because he is a shegig in the concept of Avodah Zarah, I'm sorry, Heinishiach, it's the other way around. He's shaking in the concept of Avodah Zarah. He only brings one chatas, even though he did 3 different Avodas. Because he thought it's okay to do Avodah Zarah in this way, where you're only doing a Me'avo Me'ira. Okay? The Gemara says, this is not so pashut, because this is totally in a different machlokes. This is good according to Abayu, who says that somebody who does Avodah Zarah Me'avo Me'ira is chayiv. He's chayiv a chatas. Right? He thought it was okay. It's not okay. So according to him, I could say pshat in the pasuk, and Me'achas Mehina is going according to, could even be going on Avodah Zarah. But according to Rava, who says that somebody does Avodah Zarah, Me'avo Me'ira will be pater. Obviously, you're not allowed to do it, but he won't. The machlokes between Abaye and Rava seems to be, without looking at the Rishonim, it seems very simple. It seems that Abaye holds if a person does an action to avoid Zara, he's going to be chayiv, even though in his mind he's not planning to do it. Right?
He's not planning to do it.
He's not thinking. He's not believing that this is really God. Right? According to Rava, it's telling him what he thinks. And he knows he's not really doing it.
How do you know what he thinks? He comes back.
He knows. He knows. He says, "I never really believed in the sketchka, but there was a socially acceptable thing to do, so I bowed to it." Right? So the Rava will say pater in that case. But according to Rava, now you don't have any kind of situation where you have a shogig of a Zara. It's pashut not possible. Right? So the Gemara says, I'll tell you according to Rava what's the case of shogig. Ela b'aymer mutter. Aymer mutter is where a person says there's no such thing as a Zara in the Torah.
You bang to nobody.
What?
You might bang to nobody.
No. He's saying the Torah didn't say in Israel by Zara. Like in his Torah, it didn't have that paragraph, and that's why he did it. And now he just came to his rabbi and he said, I'll tell you a story, okay? I was in, I think it was 10th grade. And I was speaking to a friend of mine, and we were schmoozing, and he mind, we were talking, somehow we came up, she talking about everything. He said something about shaving. And he goes like this, I was like, Shmuley, you don't shave like that, right? Right? So what do you mean? He had no idea.
Clean everything?
Yeah, he had no clue. Pashut amaratzis, right?
Nice shave though.
Huh?
Nice shave.
Nice shave. Yeah, but he Pashut didn't know, right? That's Eimer mutter, right? It's not like he thought that this was mutter. He just didn't know the Isser, right? So.
Are you shocked when you told him?
Yeah. Right now he's a very fine balabas living in Muncie. I believe making a nice parnasa.
Big beard?
I don't know if he has a big beard or not. I think he has a little beard. I haven't seen him in a couple of years. But Baruch Hashem, he's doing okay. So the Gemara says, so Eimer Mutter will be the case of where it's Shigdas Avad Chavim V'Zadan Avaydis. It'll be that it's not like he made a mistake in the halachas of Avodah Zarah or mistake in what is Avodah Zarah. It's Pasha, he didn't know that there was a musig of Avodah Zarah, and this is going to be the case where a person who does multiple avodas, but in one element of not knowing of Eimer Mutter, saying there's no Isra Avodah Zarah in the Torah, will be chayev only one chatas. Practical Gemara. If that's the case, Tifshet Boy Minei Rav Merav Nachman. If this is what you're saying, that according to Rava, that it's going to be talking about a case of Eimer Mutter and Yechayev Achatas, it's a problem. Because if Rava really held this, Rava would have had an answer to a different shaila he asked Rav Nachman. What was the shaila he asked Rav Nachman? The boy minei Rav Nachman. Rav asked the shaila from Rav Nachman. Helam zev biyadei mahu. If a person Pasha didn't know about Shabbos and he didn't know about the malachas, he didn't know anything about Hilchas Shabbos. He was like a tinuk shenishba. What's the halacha? Is he chayiv one chatas or chayiv multiple chatas?
Everyone has the same thing. Let's say a person doesn't know for Shabbos right now. Let's say he thinks it's Monday. He doesn't know.
Right. But he knows that there's a halacha of Shabbos.
Right.
Rabbi right now is saying a person did not know the concept of Shabbos.
Shabbos.
He didn't know at all. Right. Helam Zeb Biyadei. Right? What? He had amnesia. I don't know. Someone knocked him on the head. He grew up as a tinuk shenishba. It's a lot of scenarios. I'm being quick over here, but these are big sugyas in the 7th parak in Shabbos. So Rava asked the Shaila, what will be the halacha? He doesn't know at all about Hilchas Shabbos. Is he chayav one chatas for a bunch of malachas, or is he chayav a bunch of chatais? He did 10 malachas because he didn't know what Shabbos, right? A person, it's very easy to do malachas if you don't know Shabbos, right? So he did 10 malachas. Is he chayav 10 chatais or one chatas? Based on what we just said, that by Avodah Zarah, by Eimer Mutter, he's going to be chayav only one chatas. Because he just didn't know the concept of Avodah Zarah. So over here also, why is Rava asking Rav Nachman the Shaila? it's the same thing by Hilchos Shabbos. Right? So let Rav have answered that shaila. Tifshait, let's answer. You're only going to have one chatas. Why is Rav asking the shaila? Where it says Halei Kasha, the Tifshait. The Gemara says, you're right. Be patient. Don't tell me this is a kasha. Why didn't Rava do it? You're right. Based on this, you could say that we have an answer to Rava's question to Rav Nachman. Correct the Gemara. We must make Mislani Krav of I have a different problem. I'm going on the concept that maybe you could say Me'achas Mehena is talking about Shabbos and it's talking about Avodas Kochavim, and I could use the pasuk Me'achas Mehena to be mechalik to say that a person who does 4 different avodas is going to be chayav 4 different chatais. By Avodah Zarah. Right. Like Rav Zakkai said, not like Rav Zakkai said, that he does 4 averas, he could do 4 different 4 avodas to get 4 different chatais, and therefore the pasuk of Hishtachava by bowing is Lav Yatzis, to tell you that Hishtachava is different than the other avodas. But the problem is, that's only if I can use Me'achas Mehena by Avodah Zarah. The Gemara is going to ask, maybe you can't use Me'achas Mehena by Avodah Zarah. Why? Can you say that these psukim are talking about Avodah Kochavim? Me'achas Mehena? Mashiach par uvnasi sar uv'yachad kispos ira. By Avera that you're chayav achatas in, the pasuk makes a difference between who did it. If a Kohen Mashiach did it, a Kohen Gadol did it, or if a Nasi did it, a Melech did it, or a Yachid did it. It's three different chatais. Kohen Gadol who did an Avera that is chayav achatas to a regular person has to bring a par Kohen Mashiach. Nasi, a king who did an Avera that a regular person with chayav achatas has to bring Sar Nasi. There's a goat, a special carbon for it. And a person, a single individual, regular normal person does an Avera like this has to bring a carbon chatas, kispo sira, right? So you have 3 different Averas, and that's what the pasuk Me'achas Mehena is talking about, the halachas of chatas, in which you have a differentiation between a Kohen and Mashiach, Kohen Gadol, a Nasi, and a regular person. However, Vilu B'Avodas Kochavim Tanya, by Avodas Kochavim we learn V'shavin Shebesiru Kiyachid. Everyone agrees that a king or Kohen Mashiach brings a seira. In other words, we're saying that the Avodah Zarah carbon that you bring is not differentiated between a king, Kohen Gadol, and a regular person. You all bring the same Avera. If that's the case, the pasuk Me'achas Mehena that's talking about by a regular chatas is not going by Avodah Zarah, because Avodah Zarah is a different set of karbanis than the regular chatas. If that's the case, then you can't learn Me'achas Mehena to tell you that you should differentiate between the different avodas by Avodah Zarah to say that you should be chayav 4 chatais. Elamai, what happens? You need to have the pasuk Havara to tell you lechalak yatzis, and then even Rab Yasi, everyone will be masking that by Havara lechalak yatzis, that you need the pasuk of Havara to tell you that a person does Havara and Nisach and Kitar and Zibach Tavai Zara will be chayav 4 in one helam will be chayav 4 chatais, and therefore Rab Zakkai is not correct, because you cannot say that all the four different avodas are chayav one time. He says it's only chayav 1, right? But we can't say Reb Zakkai is correct, because you have to use those. You have to use the pasuk of Havara to tell you to differentiate, because you cannot use Me'achas Mehena. Exactly, Mara Vasulei Midi. That's it. Nothing else. We're done. This is clear. Case closed. Great word. Yes. Okay. The good news is that Amud Beis is simpler. Kiasar Shmuel bar Yehuda Amar Hachi. Amar, he said, when Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda came, he said, Hachi Tana Kamei. He had a different version of what Rav Zakkai said in front of Rabbi Yechanan, and what Rabbi Yechanan disagreed with. Also in the halachas of Shabbos. He said, Chaimer b'Shabbos b'shar mitzvahs. There's a chumrah that Shabbos has from over other mitzvahs, and there's a chumrah by other mitzvahs have over Shabbos. What are they? Chaimer b'Shabbos Shabbos is more chamer because it's telling you that if you do two averis in one helam and one forgetting, you're going to be chayiv on each one. Mashen came b'shar mitzvahs. By other mitzvahs, you only be chayiv one. For example,
not on Shabbos.
We're just going to talk about exactly what this case is. It's not so pashut. This first thing that we said. Chaymer b'shar mitzvahs, but there's the chaymer by other mitzvahs, not Shabbos. Shebishar mitzvahs shagag lo miskav and chayiv. By other mitzvahs, if a person did a shogeg without having in mind to do the avera, the classic case is he sees. No. Let's have a zara gets complicated. We're going to get to a soon, but we had that already. It's complicated. Let's say a classic case would be he sees a lump of some fat, some liquidy on his cup, and he drinks his cup anyway. He thought it was just saliva. Right? And it turned out it was chaylev. The Pasha didn't even intend to eat chaylev, right?
Nothing to do with Shabbos.
It's not like he thought this was kosher chaylev and he ate non-kosher chaylev, right?
Nothing to do with Shabbos.
Right, this is shar mitzvahs. We're saying shar mitzvahs. There's a chaymer in the shar mitzvahs that by shar mitzvahs, shag loy miskaven chayiv. He's going to be chayiv even though he Pasha didn't have in mind to eat any chaylev, right? Or any shum or anything. He thought it was just like, swallowing some saliva. Mashenki b'Shabbos, but on Shabbos he'll be patur in such a situation. If a person is masasek, he thinks he's doing one thing and he turns out he does a malacha, he'll be patur. We're going to say in a second. The reason why is because the Torah the Torah requires intent to do a malacha for the malacha to be chayiv on Shabbos. If a person didn't realize, if a person is walking along the street.
He's carrying, let's say,
and he doesn't even know he's carrying, or he's walking across the street and he like turns and he knocks the apple out of the tree. He's not chayiv on kaitzer, right? It's not like he was planning to do it. He was just turning around and his shoulder banged him by mistake. That's masasek. Now the Gemara is going to explain what this is. Amar, we learn. Chaymer b'Shabbos. Shabbos says Chaymer. Shabbos asher shtayim b'chulu. By Shabbos, if you do two, you're going to be chayiv on each. In one helam, two averis. In one shegeg, you're going to be chayiv on both. What's the case? If you're going to say he did tzira and tchina, that's the classic case. He did two different malachas in one shegeg. He thought he knew it was Shabbos, but he didn't know Ktsira was Asr, he didn't know Tchina was Asr, and he did them both. He's going to be chayiv two chatayis. Well, the Kavasa Gav Shar mitzvahs. What's the case by other mitzvahs that you'll say that's the parallel that you only bring one? If you're going to say the Achol Chelev Adam, he had one shegeg he ate Chelev and one shegeg he ate Dam. In both cases, it's going to be chayiv too, right? We said this all the way at the beginning of the night. We said if a person eats chaylev and dam in one helam, he didn't know this for chaylev, he didn't know this for dam. It's two different averis. He has to bring two different chatayis. What would be the case by other mitzvahs where he's going to be chayiv only one? The achal chaylev u'chaylev. He ate chaylev one time, and then a couple of hours later, but still in the same helam, he ate chaylev again, right? So he's going to bring only one. The kavasa gav Shabbos, and the same case by Shabbos would be he did ksira and ktira. He did ksira in the morning, and he still didn't know that it was aser, and he did ksira in the afternoon. Well, in that case, you're going to be chayiv one both cases, right? So, in other words, the Gemara is saying you have no situation where it makes sense to make this chiluk between Shabbos and Shar Malachas. And the Gemara says, and that's why Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Zakkai, go say outside that this is not correct, that you're making a mistake. Because Taka, this doesn't make any sense. There's no scenario where you could have this. Back to Gemara, my question, what was fair? I'll tell you, the case is they did ksira and tchina, and that's why. And the ksira and tchina you're chayiv by Shabbos. You're going to be chayiv on each one. What's the case of other mitzvahs? It will be a case of avodas kechavim. Rav Ami, like Rav Ami. Rav Ami is going to say a halacha that we're going to have more on tomorrow's daf, but it's very similar to what Rav Zakkai said. Rav Ami, I didn't have a Ma'ariv, so I have to have a Ma'ariv now. Okay.